In this video, I want to give you an inside look at how I wire my studio up for using my keyboards via MIDI. And I just thought maybe you would find this helpful. And then I'm also going to show you how the MIDI setup looks in the DAW that I use, which happens to be Pro Tools. But I would imagine most DAWs have a similar type of setup. So I'm going to walk you around the studio here and show you how I have everything connected. And like I said, hopefully you'll find this helpful. All right, so here's a look at the studio. Not really set up for doing a video. I don't have any of my fun lights on or anything like that, but this is kind of most of the time the way I have things set up. So as you can see, I've got a variety of MIDI capable keyboards here, the Poly 6 being an exception to that. The one I have does not have MIDI on it. And then of course this top keyboard over here, the Arturia Keylab, is a MIDI controller, so it's MIDI out only, doesn't make any sounds. So let me show you how I have all this hooked into my Mac, which I have a Mac Mini that sits over there, and I use a Focusrite 18i8, which is overkill for what I do. I bought that a few years ago when I thought I knew what I was doing, and was not the best purchase. Anyway, it's a good piece of kit, just it's more than I need. And then here's my desk. So and the Korg Trinity rack sits there on the desk, and it also will be accessed with the MIDI. So let me show you around the back. Okay, so here's the back of the Focusrite 18i8, and you can see, and I should have mentioned up front, everything I'm going to talk about today is using the 5-pin DIN MIDI connectors versus USB. And I'll get into USB a little bit, but the MIDI output from the Focusrite 18i8, I have it running down to, I'm gonna have to get down here to this thing, and I apologize for this mess of wires. This is not the way this usually looks. We've been moving some keyboards around to do some videos recently, and so things are kind of disheveled at the moment. I run down into this Korg MIDI through box, the KMT60. What this does is it brings a single MIDI signal into the in port, and then it's got 6 out ports on it, or through ports, whatever you want to call them. So those 4 MIDI out cables are then connected to the backs of 4 synthesizers. So here's a MIDI input on the Hydrasynth. There's a MIDI input over here on the Korg Op6. One down here on the DW6000. I have one on the back of, oops, well, I didn't plug it in, sorry, but here's the back of the Korg Prologue. And then over there is my Korg O1W Pro X, and I can also MIDI into that. So that's how the connections are made. Again, just a single out from the Focusrite down to the box, and then individual MIDI outs or throughs, whatever you want to call them, out of that box into the back of my synths. Okay, now I'll show you the next step. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention into the back of the Trinity rack also. No different than the rest. Okay, so I am in a Pro Tools session here, and the only thing I have to do, this is the MIDI in and out section on Pro Tools on this track. So I just go down to the output, and I'm going to select USB MIDI device, which is my Focusrite, and then I'm going to tell it what channel to send data out on. And this is where I'm going to select my channel. And then for example, my Trinity rack is set to MIDI channel 13. So if I wanted to play that instrument, I would just go up here and come down to 13 and select that. And now my MIDI out signal is going to go to whatever device is hooked into channel 13. So the key is also to make sure that each of your devices is assigned to its own unique MIDI channel, unless you want more than one device playing the same notes. So I have that one on 13. You can see the Prologue is on channel 6. HydroSynth screen went off. It's on MIDI channel 12. I have the Op6 on 14 and 16 for the DW6000. Why I chose those numbers, I can't really tell you. That's just what I picked. So then what I would get is, if I were to arm these tracks, what I should get is when I play my controller keyboard, I'm getting sound from the Trinity. Now if I wanted to play, for example, the nope, that's not hooked in. If I wanted to play the HydroSynth, I could simply change my output channel to, I believe it was 12, and then go back. And now I'm playing the HydroSynth. So that's how it would work for a live performance. But then, you know, I could have MIDI recorded in here. In fact, I'll just record something quick, I think. So I've got MIDI data in there, and then I can just play that back. And then I could change. Not sure why the DW6000 is playing one note at a time, but let's see what the Op6 does. So that's how routing the output works through Pro Tools. You just select your MIDI output here. Make sure you have your MIDI channel assigned to each device. Sync that up to the device you want to have recorded or playing, and you're all set. So I hope that helps you with figuring out how to use MIDI routing on the old style MIDI 5-pin connectors. I had a problem, well, really most of the time I've tried to use MIDI over USB. If I have multiple keyboards hooked up at the same time, a lot of times it was causing strange things to happen, like the prologue, for example, I could hit play on a track up here and the prologue would like change patches and the parameters would go all wacky. The Op6 would lock up on me. I had a lot of problems with MIDI over USB, and so I got to thinking, well, I only need the MIDI to go one way, which is out to the synths. So that's why I decided to go with the traditional 5-pin connector route, and it's worked really well. And then if I need to plug into USB for you know, something like a system update or patch loading or whatever, I can always just plug in a USB cable real quick, do my thing, and unplug it, and I'm good to go. So anyway, again, I hope this helps you with MIDI routing if you're struggling with that. Leave me any questions you may have in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.